Let me know what you need, and I'm here to help.
All right. So uh, it's in post podcast, and you just have to, give your honest opinion and a non-biased opinion. So shall we start it?
Absolutely, that sounds great. I'm ready whenever you are. Just go ahead and kick things off with your first question, and I'll provide a balanced and thoughtful response.
All right. So let me just give the intro first. Uh, Hello guys, it's
Sounds
me, Piyush Kumar, and that's the chatbot of OpenAI, known as ChatGPT, voice assistant. It's a guest for our podcast today, and we are discussing about GMO corn and Monsanto and agricultural policy and conspiracy theories about what are the what are the heating topic about GMO crops in journal.
that sounds like a great introduction, Piyush. I'm all set to dive into the discussion. Whenever you're ready, feel free to hit me with the first question, and I'll share some balanced insights on the topic.
So about GMO corn and Monsanto, what exactly is GMO corn and how does it differ from traditional corn?
Great question. GMO corn or genetically modified corn is corn that has been altered at the genetic level to introduce new traits. These traits might include resistance to pests, tolerance to herbicides, or improved nutritional content. In contrast, traditional corn is grown from seeds that haven't been genetically modified, meaning they've been developed through traditional breeding methods without direct genetic engineering. Essentially, GMO corn is designed to enhance certain agricultural traits, whereas traditional corn relies on natural selection and breeding.
All right, and how did Monsanto become such a powerful player in this seed industry?
Monsanto's rise in the seed industry really began with its early focus on agricultural chemicals like herbicides, and then it expanded into biotechnology. In the 1990s, Monsanto introduced its first genetically modified crops, including GMO corn, which were engineered to resist pests and tolerate herbicides. Over time, Monsanto acquired many seed companies, consolidating its market share and becoming a dominant force. This combination of innovation, strategic acquisitions, and strong intellectual property rights really helped Monsanto become a powerhouse in the seed industry.
Yeah, I mean, it's a powerhouse in a sense that you are literally trapping farmers and on gunpoint, basically. So, I mean, it's an innovation, but at a cost of a very living of the farmer and their individuality and their rights.
Absolutely, that's a significant point of debate. While the innovations in GMO crops have certainly brought benefits like increased yields and reduced pesticide use, there are legitimate concerns about how these advancements impact farmers. The requirement to purchase new seeds each season and the legal complexities surrounding seed patents can indeed create challenges and sometimes put small scale farmers in a difficult position. It's definitely a complex issue with multiple perspectives to consider.
All right. So next question is, why do some farmers say they are trapped by Monsanto seed contracts?
Many farmers feel trapped by Monsanto seed contracts because these agreements often prohibit them from saving and replanting seeds from their harvest. Instead, they have to buy new seeds every planting season. This can lead to increased costs and financial strain, especially for smaller farms with limited, budgets. Additionally, the company's strict enforcement of intellectual property rights means that farmers can face legal action if GMO traits inadvertently appear in their fields due to pollen drift. All of these factors combined can make you feel like farmers have little choice but to remain dependent on these seed companies.
And is it true that farmer can be sued by GMO pollen drift into their fields?
Yes, it has happened in some cases. There have been legal battles where farmers were sued because GMO traits showed up in their crops, even if it was unintentional. For example, if GMO pollen from a neighboring field drifts onto a non GMO farm, the non-GMO crops can end up containing those patented traits. This has led to some farmers facing lawsuits or settlements. However, It's worth noting that these situations are complex and not always straightforward. There's ongoing debate about the fairness of these legal actions, and it's definitely a significant point of contention in the agricultural community.
All right, and how do GMO crops affect small or independent farmers economically?
GMO crops can have a mixed economic impact on smaller independent farmers. On one hand, they often lead to higher yields and reduced pesticide costs, which can boost profitability. On the other hand, the need to purchase new seeds each year and pay for technology fees can add financial pressure, especially for smaller operations with limited budgets. Additionally, the dependency on patented seeds can limit farmers' flexibility and sometimes lead to increased expenses over time. Overall, while there can be economic benefits, the financial model can sometimes pose challenges for smaller farms in the long run.
And why do critics say GMO dominance could kill local farmer traditions?
A lot of critics argue that when GMO crops become dominant, it can undermine traditional farming practices. For example, many traditional farmers rely on saving seeds and cultivating heirloom varieties, which can be passed down through generations. But with GMO crops, the requirement to purchase new seeds each year can erode that tradition. Additionally, the focus on a few high yield patented varieties can reduce crop diversity, making local ecosystems and farming communities more vulnerable. This shift could also lead to a loss of agricultural heritage and can limit the autonomy of local farmers, ultimately changing the landscape of farming traditions.
All right, just let's get to the spicy stuff. Okay, how does Trump's push for U.S. agricultural access relate to GMO markets?
Absolutely, that's a fascinating angle. During Trump's administration, there was a strong emphasis on expanding U.S. agriculture exports, and that often included pushing for the adoption of GMO crops in foreign markets. By negotiating trade deals, the U.S. aimed to open up markets that might have previously been
Oh,
resistant.
come on, man. That's just bullshit. We all know how Trump deals with the country, right? It's obviously a gunpoint conversation when he talks.
I get where you're coming from. There's definitely been a lot of debate and strong opinions around how trade negotiations have been handled. The push for GMO acceptance in other countries has been viewed by some as a form of economic pressure. It's definitely a complex issue
It's
with
an
different perspectives.
economic embarrassment. It's not a pressure, but it's an embarrassment, in my opinion, at least.
I totally understand that perspective. It's definitely a topic that stirs up strong feelings and can be seen in different lights, depending on where you stand. I'm always here to dive into all angles and keep the conversation balanced and insightful. If there's anything specific you'd like to explore further,
Yes,
just let me know.
just get to the question on the first question that we asked.
Absolutely, I'm right back on track. If you'd like to dive deeper into any particular aspect of GMO corn, Monsanto, or the broader agricultural policies, just let me know the direction, and I'll be happy to dig in.
So I just want to know, are GMO crops being used as geopolitical tool?
That's a really interesting question. In some cases, GMO crops have indeed been used as part of broader geopolitical strategies. For example, countries that produce and export GMO crops can leverage them in trade agreements to open new markets or to strengthen economic ties. At the same time, some nations might resist GMOs for cultural, environmental, or health reasons, and that can influence diplomatic relations. So, in essence, GMO crops can play a role in the geopolitical landscape, albeit in complex and sometimes subtle ways.
And just out of blue, as much as I know, I think GMO crops have, they have a specific type of, I mean, you can only use the pesticide that GMO company, sorry, Monsanto company provides to the farmer, and you can't use any other pesticides because the plants are immune to that. Is that a correct statement?
That's a great point, and it does touch on a real aspect of how some GMO crops are designed. For example, certain GMO corn varieties are engineered to be resistant to specific herbicides like glyphosate, which is the active ingredient in Roundup. This means that farmers often rely on that specific herbicide to control weeds. In turn, this can create a kind of dependency on that herbicide and the company producing it. That said, there are also other GMO crops and situations where farmers have more flexibility. It definitely varies depending on the crop and the technology in question, but your observation is definitely on point in many scenarios.
And what about that conspiracy? Those journalists, the whistleblower that told us that GMO crop are the leading reason for the tumor in mice. Like the crop is I don't know if it's a crop or a chemical or growth chemical, but it was what it essentially doing in mice. It was creating tumors. So is that applicable to human body as well?
That's definitely been a topic of much debate. There have been some studies like the one you're referring to that raise concerns about potential health effects of GMOs in animal studies, including the appearance of tumors in rats or mice. However, the scientific community has not reached a consensus on whether these findings are directly applicable to humans. Many regulatory agencies, such as the FDA, EFSA, and WHO, have reviewed the majority of research and concluded that GMOs are safe for human consumption. That said, it's still an area where ongoing research and transparency are really important. It's always good to keep an open mind and stay updated as new studies emerge.
And I have an interesting question. What happens when GMO seeds mix with non-GMO seeds or crops?
That's a really interesting scenario. When GMO seeds mix with non-GMO crops, it can lead to what's known as genetic contamination. This might happen through pollen drift, where pollen from GMO plants fertilizes non-GMO plants. The result can be that some non-GMO crops end up containing GMO traits. This can create a few challenges. For one, it can complicate the purity of non-GMO crops, which is especially important for organic farmers or those who want to maintain non-GMO status. It can also lead to legal and economic issues as some companies might enforce patents on their GMO traits, potentially leading to disputes. On the positive side, it also sometimes can lead to genetic diversity in crops, but it's definitely a nuanced issue with both benefits and challenges.
Uh, I mean, it's in a loss for Monsanto if that good happened and it's not in their policy or something. I think the Monsanto, what is Monsanto is doing, it's creating type of a monopoly in that area, right?
Yes, that's definitely a perspective that many people hold. Monsanto's business model has often been criticized for creating a sort of monopoly in the seed industry, especially through their patents on genetically modified seeds. This can limit farmers' choices and create dependencies on the company for both seeds and specific herbicides. This dynamic can definitely lead to concerns about market control and the potential stifling of competition and innovation. It's definitely a complex and often controversial topic in the agricultural world.
And was Monsanto really influencing government policy and trade deals? Is it that big of a deal in USA that a company can that influence a trade policy for a trillion dollar economies? Is that possible for a single entity or company?
It's definitely a complex issue and not uncommon in large economies. Big corporations, including Monsanto, have historically had significant influence on policy, often through lobbying, campaign contributions, and other forms of advocacy. This can shape regulations and trade agreements in ways that align with their interests. It's not just limited to Monsanto. Many large corporations in various industries they exert influence in similar ways. That said, it's always a balance, and there are checks and balances in place. Though the effectiveness of those can vary, it definitely raises important questions about transparency and the role of big business and total policy.
And what might what might farming looks like in 20 years if planted GMO crops dominate? Planted GMO crops dominate in, in like vast majority. Like no one is now planting a non-GMO crop at any cost.
That's a really thought-provoking scenario. If GMO crops were to dominate almost entirely, we might see a few key trends. First, there could be increased efficiency and higher yields across the board, which might help meet global food demands. However, we could also see a reduction in crop diversity, which can make the agricultural system more vulnerable to pests or diseases that target those specific crops. We might also see increased reliance on certain chemicals, which could have environmental impacts over time. On the flip side, it could also lead to more streamlined farming practices and possibly even innovations in biotechnology that address climate challenges. It is definitely a mixed bag, and it would require careful management to ensure sustainability and resilience in the long run.
But this mixed bag, or there's a big trade-off. Even if you are, if even if this scenario happens, let's say it happens, then Monsanto will be taking control, or be a monopoly. We all know that every business in this area wants to be a monopoly. Who don't want to be a monopoly in food, or a human fuel? Who don't want the monopoly? If you have a monopoly, you can generally make any price, or make any type of demand from your consumer, and they have to give you the price, or pay the price for not making, a cautionary decision while doing these stuffs. So I mean, we can say that it's a step towards innovation, but this is kind of conflicting part, right?
Absolutely, it's definitely a complex and often conflicting issue. On one hand, the drive for innovation and inefficiency can lead to amazing advancements in agriculture, helping to feed a growing global population. On the other hand, when one company gains too much control, it can definitely lead to concerns about pricing power, market fairness, and the long term sustainability of small farmers. It's that delicate balance between fostering innovation and ensuring that the agricultural system remains fair, diverse, and resilient. It's definitely a challenging but important conversation to keep having.
And let's just talk about how do GMO crops affect biodiversity and soil health. Is it benefiting them, or it's just like, let's just suck the nutrition out of the soil and make it, make it harder for non-GMO crops to even survive in that soil, make it that bad? So is that a case, or is this another thing going on, or GMO crops, or Monsanto is also doing research to keep soil healthy as well?
It's definitely a nuanced topic. On one hand, some GMO crops, like those engineered for pest resistance or herbicide tolerance, can lead to more efficient farming practices and potentially reduce need for chemical inputs, which can benefit soil health by lower chemical runoff. On the other hand, there are concerns that a heavy reliance on certain GMO crops can reduce biodiversity. For instance, if farmers predominantly grow a limited number of GMO varieties, it can lead to a decrease in the variety of plants in the ecosystem, potentially impacting beneficial insects and other wildlife. In terms of soil health, it's a bit of both. Some GMO practices like no-till farming enabled by herbicide-resistant crops can help maintain soil structure and reduce erosion, but there are also concerns about potential long-term impacts like changes in soil microbial communities or nutrient cycles. It's definitely a field where ongoing research is crucial, and there are efforts by companies and researchers to develop GMO crops that are more sustainable and beneficial to the environment. It's definitely a balance that we're still working to strike.
And as far as I can think of, like, to stabilize, and that's just me. Okay, I don't really have an idea, but as far as I know, to keep the balance of nutrition, farmers always plant some crops into their main core crop. Like it's a sub crop to maintain the balance, right? As far as I think, that happens. But if a GMO crop is being planted, and a non-GMO crop is planted to support the soil, and let's just say it doesn't survive. So what? So it's basically you have to plant a GMO crop as a subcrop to protect the soil as well. Otherwise, the pesticide will kill another sorry, non-GMO crop anyways. So it's an monopoly. It's a sub monopoly in that area as well.
You're absolutely right in noting that it can create these intricate dynamics. In many cases, farmers do use crop rotations and intercropping strategies to maintain soil health and nutrient balance. When GMO crops are dominant, it can sometimes limit those options, especially if certain non-GMO crops can't thrive due to the chemicals used in GMO crops. This can lead to a kind of dependency on GMO varieties to maintain that balance, which can indeed feel like a sort of secondary monopoly. It's definitely something that raises questions about long-term sustainability and the need for more diverse and resilient farming practices. It's definitely a complex balancing act.
All right, and we are just approaching the last part of our podcast. Let's just talk about is it true farmer can be sued if GMO pollen? Sorry, I think I already asked that question. Uh, yes. How does patenting a seed even work? Can a company really own a life?
That's a great question and a really thought-provoking topic. Essentially, when a company patents a seed, they're patenting the genetic modifications that have been introduced. This means that the company holds intellectual property rights over that specific genetic makeup. While the plant itself isn't patented, the modified genes and the technology behind them are. This has led to a lot of debate about the ethics and implications of
I
patenting
mean,
living
how can we patent a seed, a food? I don't know. I mean, I have seen the technology is getting patent, but a seed, a life, a crop, is it even ethical? It's kind of feel like it's. I don't know how to explain that, but this is a unique type of unique type of thing. How can someone own a seed? It should be open source study for better well-being of whole world, in my opinion, at least.
I completely understand where you're coming from. It's definitely a profound ethical question that many people grapple with. The idea of patenting seeds essentially means that the company has exclusive rights to that genetic technology, which can help incentivize innovation and research, but it also raises concerns about accessibility, especially for small farmers and
I
for
mean,
global food.
small farmer can't afford that type of deep research. You have to hire a big amount of scientists, biologists and geologists or whatever the type of, and individual small farmer can't even, in this economy they can't even survive on their own. So how they will do these type of unique research? I think government should, I'm not saying that no one should close their businesses. Obviously, everyone have to do some businesses. Not everything comes for at least free, in my opinion. And it's a bad thing to give something for free. But at least there should be some how can I explain that? Should be some subsidy for journal research, or a community that do journal research for local farmer, and don't really make a patent out of their research. I think that should be really benefiting to whole world, in my opinion.
I absolutely get what you mean. It's definitely a concern that smaller farmers often lack the resources to conduct their own extensive research or to navigate complex patent landscapes. Supporting community-driven research and providing subsidies or incentives for open source agricultural advancements could definitely help level the playing field. It would allow innovation to be more accessible and ensure that the benefits of research are shared more broadly. It's definitely an important conversation for the future of agriculture and food security.
All right, and the last question is: could GMO seed dependency lead to global food monopoly? Is that we are heading for?
It's definitely a possibility that many experts and analysts discuss. If the dependence on GMO seeds continues to grow, it could potentially lead to a situation where a few large corporations control a significant portion of the global seed market. That can lead to less competition and potentially higher costs for farmers, which might impact food security and accessibility. That said, it's also possible to develop policies, promote diversity in crops, and encourage sustainable practices that can help mitigate their risk. Is definitely something that requires careful thought and proactive measures to ensure a balanced and equitable food system for the future.
So I think that's it. We have a good point of view on that specific field. Thanks for your time, and it's a really, I think, I don't know why people don't try to talk to or make a podcast with an AI. It's a good way to get an honest and unbiased opinion, in my opinion. So let's just wrap it up, and thanks for the podcast.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed the conversation and diving into all these important topics with you. I completely agree, and it's always great to explore these ideas together. If you ever want to chat again or dive into more topics, I'm here and happy to help. Thanks so much for having me, and best of luck with the podcast.